What is up, everybody? I am your host, Shane Mallory, joined by my co-host,
Ricky DaCosta.
And tell the folks what time it is.
Run it back.
Run it back, episode 26. And my beautiful people are over 1,000 followers now. I'd be remiss if I didn't tell you to tell your friends and loved ones alike to please like, comment, and subscribe. We're looking for those 5-star reviews on all those major platforms.
And they were coming for you, right?
Yeah, oh my God,
Did they say I was right and you just needed to admit it, right?
One person did, yeah.
I'm just saying,
as usual,
the audience,
I corrected
the fans.
him. I corrected him just
Let's
like
just
I correct
admit
you
that
on an episode
you were
basis.
wrong and I'm right.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
throwing it out there, right?
Maybe
I'm a man of the people.
You know what?
And
we
the people
do?
Just wanted you to acknowledge
that
I
you
was
were,
right.
Yeah, I mean, that's
not hard for you, right?
I can't acknowledge what I don't know. So I mean, you know what we could do when we do future debates? We could do a little throw it up to the fans, like a poll. See,
okay, we can make that happen.
You just made an organic idea come to life right there, man. That was
Say
great.
no more.
So I mean, I love it.
I mean, you're talking about Tom Brady and Peyton Manning. You're talking about Michael Jordan and
listen,
LeBron.
We could debate a lot of different things there.
Okay.
There's a lot of different ways to go. Once basketball season ends, then we really get to have some fun with some of the topics too, as well.
Say no more.
So a lot of things to explore. GOAT debates though definitely need to be had before it all is said and done. But all right. Little slow in sports right now, but we did have an NBA All-Star game. It looks much more like an exhibition or a run-through practice than it does. But before we even talk about the game, let's talk about the coolest event of the weekend, all right?
Where you going?
Steph Curry does the three-point contest against Sabrina Ionescu. Now, I didn't even know who she was. I was like, is she a college player? No, she plays in the WNBA. I'm drawing a blank as to which team actually right now. But I give her a tremendous amount of credit because not only does she step on and compete against the greatest shooter we've all ever seen, okay, but she does it from the NBA range. Now, in case some people aren't familiar, the WNBA's three-point line is a little bit closer than the men's. She shot from the men's length, okay, and she literally tied Dame Lillard's score last year, who was the winner of the three-point contest last year. And watching Steph Curry, it was really funny because
he wasn't trying to lose.
He was super nervous. He came into the locker room before super nervous, and then she's getting down to her final. The final rack, making her shots, and he's just in there. He's almost chewing on his nails, oh my God, what's gonna happen? And then he misses, obviously the one that makes the difference. But great sportsmanship all around. What are your thoughts on that? Just
listen. I think it's right. Listen, I think it's awesome, right? At the end of the day, right? Women got game, right?
Absolutely.
And that's the thing. If you're a baller,
shout out to Sabrina Ionescu too, man. You balled out. That was awesome.
And listen, look at Caitlin Clark, right? At Iowa right now, right?
Might be the most famous female athlete right now.
Facts, right?
Yeah.
Just doing things we've never seen before, right? Very similar to
all-time NCAA is all-time leading scorer now too. I believe
female,
yes,
on the female side,
yes.
and she's hawking down on the male side as well, right?
Wow.
She's not that far away.
Impressive.
A couple more games. But no, listen, I think it's awesome. Obviously, equal rights, all that type of stuff. And so the fact that she was on the biggest stage, she showed out, just, reinforces, women's basketball. And listen, their game is really competitive, really exciting, growing. And I think as they expand their game, right, it's just going to get better and better.
Sure.
There's a audience out there that wishes the WNBA rim was a little lower so they would dunk more.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, when they start shooting from deep, right, and back and forth like we see Golden State Warriors do, I think is going to be continuously more fun and enjoyable, and that fan base is going to grow and support. So I think it's awesome. Listen, it would have been a hell of a story if she beat Steph.
Man.
Right? It would have been a hell of a story.
Yeah.
But you know what? At the end of the day, it was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think it was a really great idea just for them to kind of get some excitement around the event too in general. Because, obviously the NBA All-Star break has definitely been suffering in recent years. I just can't, because we're going to go kind of, to the game. Obviously, the events and some of the fun things they do on the side, the slam dunk contest, the three-point contest, that's fun. The game itself, though, has basically just turned into a practice.
Listen, I mean, look, just call it out, right? At the end of the day, right, the All-Star game used to have a lot of pride, used to have a lot of effort.
Yep.
I understand how football has diminished, right? You got to tackle. Some people just finished the Super Bowl, right? They're risk of injury. The contracts are not guaranteed. There's a significantly amount of other factors with the Pro Bowl. But with, the All-Star weekend, they practice harder in practice. They play harder in practice
100%.
than they do that particular game. So it's such a disservice, right? Like
they almost look at it like a break.
100%, but
like
they
it's
make
like
so
a
much.
rest.
They make so much money, right? Look, yes, Adam Silver should throw more money and maybe invite people instead of like you could be an all-star, but if you're not going to play hard in a game, right? We're going to sub you out for somebody that wants to play and have like a winning pool. You know, winning team gets $1 million. Losing team gets 200,000. It's got to be significant enough, right? And then MVP, you know, gets maybe another $500,000, so that like people are now like giving effort, right? And listen, the NBA loved the game. I don't want to see 150, 200 points in every basketball game during the regular season.
It shouldn't be happening
in the All-Star game. Like that's like defense is a part of the game, and the fact that it's taken out and not encouraged right now, like you know, stinks. So now I'm turned off by the game. 3-point contest is cool. The dunk contest has died. And listen,
well, it's just the stars don't compete in it anymore.
That's what I'm saying. Or listen, LeBron,
I
get
love
a
LeBron
lot
too,
of credit.
but he's part of the reason.
But you've done so much for the game of basketball. You've done so much for the NBA. But the fact that you've never participated in one dunk contest,
that's like the
has
badge.
Killed it.
That used to be the badge of the great player back in the day.
100%. Like think about everybody: Kobe, Michael.
Vince,
Dominique,
right?
Wilkins,
Dominique, you can go back, Tracy
across
McGrady,
the board.
Kobe,
Hell, right? You know, Bugsy Mogues, right? You know, did his thing in it, right? So, and then
Spud Webb back in the day beat Dominique Wilkins and Michael Jordan both. The shortest guy in the dunk contest went and won.
Now, back in the day, that was a part of how you got your shoe deal.
Yes.
Right? And so now everybody gets a shoe deal, so it's a little bit
the dunk
different.
contest was like a rite of passage. It was like your way of entering, like, yeah, I'm the next guy that's going to take over this league.
And so, you listen, yes, I mean, I don't like the fact that you got to throw money at everything. At a certain point, you got to have a little bit of pride. And so, at the end of the day, people take after LeBron's lead because he didn't do it now. John Morant doesn't want to do it. Zion is not doing it, right? Like all these big name dunkers. And at the end of the day, listen, if LeBron just showed up, he'd be top 3, right? Like, you know, his stardom and everything, people would support it.
I've seen him dunk in layup lines.
In practice.
Like, why couldn't you do that at a dunk contest?
Yeah. Listen, it's not that he can't. Right? It's
for
just
whatever
that for
reason,
whatever reason he chose
to.
not to. Maybe he thought it might hurt his brand if he doesn't win. But what he would have done for the game and for his brand by competing and winning, that would have been, you know, further epic on a phenomenal career. But yeah, listen, it's definitely a turnoff, right? And what's the point of watching a whole game that people aren't giving no effort?
So one place where baseball actually is still very captivating. Its all-star game is still very meaningful, and people actually like the whole. They have great events and the game itself. But football and basketball, but basketball especially, I mean, they've been behind.
They play
on this
harder
for a
in
while.
practice, man, right? And now listen, I liked a little of the pettiness, right? So Therese Halliburton, right, versus Damian Lillard, right? It was held in Indianapolis. That's where, you know, Therese Halliburton plays, right? Everyone thought he was going MVP.
Yeah.
And if you remember, the Pacers and the Bucks played, and he hit a game-winning shot, and he went,
the little Dame time.
Dame time is my time, right? All right. So again,
I like that.
now
I love that.
There's got to be competition, right? So Dame was like, bet, right? We're in your city. Everybody think you're gonna win MVP? Nah, B. Half court money. Half court money. MVP, Dame time.
Yeah.
Right? So that's what I mean. How come we're not getting that, LeBron versus Giannis, right? Donovan Mitchell versus Booker, right? Like just listen, at this point, just give me one-on-one basketball for the All-Star break and have a tournament, right? Best man win 2-on-2. That would be so thrilling and exciting.
Yes.
And they got to take, and here's the thing, winner takes all. Right? Now we're talking, right? So every All-Star pairs up at random. None of this teaming up, right? Just random, pull it out of a hat, right? Winner takes all, $1 million pot.
Yeah.
Right? Now we're going to see competition, right? In a freaking tournament. That would make it freaking awesome. Or add that to the skills competition as something separate. But you got, like, mix it up a little bit. You got to bring in different dunkers. You got to, I don't know, right? Maybe partner with Nike.
Well, I was listening to an idea that you kind of just alluded to. So they were saying you have to find a way to get it to be more competitive. So Could you make a one-on-one competition? Could you make it 2s, 3s? Or could you set up, like you said, some type of a tournament? You could even do this with 5s. And let's just say you set up 5s because you have more than enough for the All-Star break. Run like a 4-team tournament or something like that. And like you said, winner takes all, have some type of a prize. There's got to be some type of a way to bring just a little bit more intensity back to the game rather than these guys almost looking at it like it's a weekend off.
Yeah, maybe, listen, call up Nike and be like, listen, hey, winner gets like a signature shoe.
Sure. You did the in-season tourney, so you got to, I feel like they can come up with a way
to what was the difference, right? With the
interest.
In-season tournament, the winning team won $500,000.
Sure.
Everybody on the team.
So you got to have the money.
So if you the practice squad player, $500K. Right? So now all of a sudden,
incentive.
LeBron is looking out for the 15th man on the bench. Right? And so, yes, $500,000, not that much for LeBron. But the guy that's making $30,000, $500,000, that can change his life.
I would love to see like some type of a tournament style setup where it's just you went through the All-Stars and you pick the teams at random, and then it's just Team A plays Team B, and then C and D, and then however you had to set it up, and then just build a small little tournament like that. Because those guys, if they're just playing for that, and if you put some money on the line, there's going to be 2 factors. One, you're playing for the money, but that's what's going to bring out the intensity and the pride in these guys. Like, you don't want to lose in those types of matchups. You're playing against some of the other greats as well. So again, listen, I thought the 3-point contest was awesome. I'm not going to lie to you. I didn't even watch the dunk competition. And then, like, the All-Star game, I put it on for a quarter. Yeah. I figured I'd try, and I was like, okay, they're doing the same thing as they do every single year. They play no defense. And, like, even by the end, it didn't even get intense. I remember a couple of years ago when it was the players picking the teams for the first time, and I think LeBron and Durant ended up on the same team. They both ended up double-teaming Steph and, like, forced to go. That actually at least brought some intensity in the fourth quarter. Like, the first 3 quarters were kind of like, whatever. But the fourth quarter, they actually got intense. But they haven't gotten back to that.
Well, what I miss is like, I forgot what year it was. It was like early 2000, end of the game. It was Stephon Marbury versus Kobe, back and forth.
Yeah.
And it was literally bucket for bucket.
I know.
It was Marbury
that was when
versus
Kobe was just coming into his own, too.
Exactly. And then all of a sudden,
people don't know about Marbury too, man. Stephon Marbury was a bad boy.
He hit 3 in a row. Yep. 2, actually, I think they were all 3s. And Kobe, last play of the game, instead of shooting, passes the ball, misses.
Kobe passed the ball?
Kobe passed the ball. He didn't take the last shot. They lose.
That was not his moniker
but
most
again,
of his career.
Literally in, I think, the last minute and 10 seconds, it was 3 straight back-to-back buckets and a bad pass that ended the game. Thrilling, super excitement.
The West ended up winning that game?
No, the East.
The East won it,
the East, right?
Who was MVP? Do you remember?
I don't remember who MVP was. Okay. All right, I have to guess, maybe Marbury, but
I was thinking it might have been AI too, but I can't remember.
It could have been.
It might have been AI.
It might have been AI. You're right. I think Marbury just took over at the end. You might be right.
Yeah, Marbury was good. But so listen, outside the All-Star break, we were obviously very knee-deep in football season. It was coming to the end, playoffs, the Super Bowl. But there was a big trade deadline that happened. Now, at the trade deadline, so the actual moves, there were some on the margins, a couple of like smaller ones that we'll talk about. But the big one that emerged, that came out on Twitter.
The one that didn't happen.
That didn't happen, but apparently no one realized until we got that alert. The talks were LeBron almost going to the Warriors. Now, I've heard a few different rumors. I've heard that LeBron ultimately nixed the trade and said, no, I'm happy in LA. The other ones I heard were that once Kuminga was a part of the deal, it was a no-go. That's at least what Draymond said. But let me ask you this. First of all, what do you think the package would have been for the Warriors to have to go and get LeBron?
Well, listen, I think if I'm LA, I want Kuminga, right?
100%. You know, I'm not giving up arguably the greatest player ever.
But here's the thing:
a young piece back.
But he can walk, and you can get nothing. So where I think if I'm LA, I would have wanted 4 first-rounders, a Moody. Like I would have taken a lesser package and like killed them in the draft. Because here's the thing. At the end of the day,
they're going for the title at that point anyway.
The Lakers have traded away so many draft picks to begin with, right? To possibly recoup and bring in some legitimate future picks because Golden State isn't going to be great forever, right?
Sure.
Like they're starting to fall apart now. Clay doesn't look the same. And
Looks
so,
better coming off the bench, though. He has looked better coming off the bench,
so
but no, I'm with you.
You're running with the second unit. So here's the thing, right? So if all of a sudden you get 4 first-rounders and 2 young players,
Sure.
maybe a Moses Moody and another young guy, right, and fill it out with salaries, I would have liked to have seen that, put LeBron on the team. Yes, you're sort of giving them the championship right now, but then in the next, 4 out of the next 8 years when they're crappy, all of a sudden you own their draft picks.
Yeah, you're
and now
maximizing on some good draft capital. Absolutely.
Exactly. Throwing some pick swaps, that would have been nice to see.
That's why you probably would have wanted them. If anything, you probably would have wanted some first round picks within, I would say, like 3 years from now. You wouldn't necessarily want them immediately.
Exactly.
Because the Warriors would have been competing for a title if that move would have happened right there. Within the next, I would say, 2 to 3 years, their championship window would have been open. As long as LeBron and Steph are playing at the level.
But if I'm the Lakers and I get those 4 draft picks, now all of a sudden I'm in the market for Donovan Mitchell, Trae Young, right? Like so that was a big trade rumor.
And you get maybe one of the Warriors' young pieces to pair along with that too as well.
Right?
Yeah.
No, exactly. Hell,
and
Paul
you have
George,
Anthony Davis.
Paul George might be a free agent
That's
at
very
this
true.
season. So
Yep.
you trade LeBron, bring in Paul George, and now you have 4 first-round picks. You bring in a Trae Young. All of a sudden, you like reloaded in a heartbeat. That if I was the GM, that would have been my strategy. Versus trying to get Kuminga. You got to sign him to a contract anyway.
Sure.
The picks would have been more important. And here's the new thing with this collective bargain, right? In the old system, you can just raise money and pay if you drafted the players or you have their draft rights, you can pay them more and go above the salary cap. The NBA took that away. If you do it, you lose future draft picks.
Okay.
So that's why we're seeing a lot of trades. We're seeing because it's a lot of salary cap moves and a lot of second round trades that draft picks that they're including into it because everyone is trying to get under the cap so that when you do make a run, it's like a 3-year window that you can go over the cap before you have to drop it significantly.
Sure. Kind of somewhat like the adjustment the NFL has made where it's like if you can go and draft a really good young quarterback and you don't have to pay him right away, you figure out kind of the team and what you can pay.
So
around
I actually love that
point.
NBA rule because, and now again, it was a slight against the Warriors, a slight against, forming big threes.
Sure.
But here was the thing, right? You have to remember, you got Steph, you got Clay, you got Draymond.
Yeah.
Then you had Kuminga, you had Poole, and you had Moody, right? Those were all drafted.
Yeah.
Why are you killing the team for drafting quality players and wanting to pay and keep them after they have developed them?
Sure.
Right? And so that's what I don't like, that you technically made a rule to hurt the teams that drafted well, right? And yes, the Warriors spent a ton of money, new stadium, new everything, and they wanted to keep all their players.
Yeah.
But, so that I don't like. Yes, if you wanted to do something against big threes and so on and so forth, that it just
That
in the
goes back a
NBA, you
while,
always
too.
have villains, right? You
Yes.
always have these big super teams. Like the Magic, no matter what they do, they're not going to be one of the superstar contenders, right? They're just
Paulo
not.
Banchero, that's a bad boy, man. That's a
Right.
bad
And
boy.
here's the thing. Teams aren't operating like OKC. OKC got all the draft picks and they're using them. They're bringing in talent and they're staying under the cap, but they're paying their players, right?
They made a trade deadline too, and they didn't have to give away any significant draft capital.
Exactly. Yeah. And they're still got a ton of trades, draft picks coming in from the Paul George trade, the Westbrook trade. So, like, they're doing it. They want to win and they want to pay their players, but these other teams haven't shown the ability to do that. And having parity throughout the NBA, I don't think is the best version of the NBA. Think about this. The Celtics were dominant. The Bulls were dominant. The Lakers were dominant. Miami with LeBron was dominant.
Sure.
Then the Warriors were dominant. Then Cleveland Cavs were dominant. The Lakers were dominant again, right? So, like, that's always been a part of the NBA. So to eliminate that now, I'm interested to see where things go. I would love to see look at the Celtics.
Sure.
They got a loaded roster. They're gonna have to make some serious trades next year.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I liked everything that you just had to say about this. If I'm just looking at the deal itself, I would have thought if I'm LA, at minimum, I need probably 3, if not 4 first-round picks, along with I'm probably looking at Kuminga because Kuminga is the best young asset on that roster. And then you're either giving me Moody or Clay or something like that to pair as well. That way I can piece around AD where I have both Clay, who's still a guy who can go and compete right now, and then Moody is something that in the future, him and AD could be.
See, that's where I think that's what you want, but that's what killed the deal, right? I would have taken Clay, the draft picks, and one young player, because right now, listen, I not think Clay got a lot left in the tank. He's in his head. He just wants the rest of his bag, and he wants to be respected. So I think if Clay leaves, goes to LA, he's gonna kill it and go off. So I would have loved to
been wanting LeBron to try and play with Klay Thompson forever. It's
I know,
the
that would
perfect
have been
teammate.
cool.
Especially when he was in his prime shooting wise.
So here's the thing, right? So, but if I'm the Lakers, LeBron could walk at the end of this season.
Yeah.
So if you got 3 first-rounders, Klay Thompson, and 1 young asset for a guy that potentially could walk, right? Like that would have been amazing.
Sure.
Right? Now, yes, he has a player option, right? 50 million, 51 million. So he would most likely
sounds
come back
like they
to the
might
Lakers.
go big game hunting in the offseason.
He lives in LA.
Yeah.
His son goes to USC. You know, all of his business ventures are there. Like he doesn't want to leave. But if I'm the Lakers, I could have traded him, gotten those assets, and he could walk and come back next season.
Yeah, I mean, you could have done that. I mean, I think
I
would
win a
have
chip
there would
with
have been
Golden
some type
State.
of handshake deal like ahead of time with the Warriors. Like, hey, if we're gonna go and do this, you at least gotta give us however many. But I hear you. I mean,
You can be cold-blooded sometimes.
You can be. Here's the other question I would have. Let's say the deal did go through and LeBron ends up on the Warriors. Does it hurt his or Curry's legacy?
No, not at all. First of all, Curry.
There's a lot of people that would disagree with that.
Curry won one on his own. He won one after Durant. So before and after Durant, he's got a chip. So Curry's legacy is cemented. Greatest shooter of all time. 4 chips, right? Changed the game of basketball, right? So to me, there's 0 damage to Steph Curry's career that could be done if he brings in another superstar. Next, the reason why I don't think it would have hurt LeBron's career, it was a trade. He didn't choose to go there, right?
But it is LeBron. So, I mean, if LeBron is
he's gonna have haters.
traded, and ultimately, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Listen, he's going to have haters. But I think for the game of basketball, it's something that we would have loved to have seen, right? Like, listen, let's really think about it, right? The rivalries are gone. They're all freaking friends.
Oh, and, almost a slip up.
Whoa. You know, hey, that tells you how I feel, right? But no, and that really threw me off.
So that's a big one.
But no, right? So, but listen, it wouldn't hurt his legacy, and like they're all close, right? That killer mentality.
For the record, I agree with you. I'm just trying to play devil's advocate.
Isn't there throughout. So you know what? Give me that super team. Give me something I haven't seen before. A Steph and a LeBron. Like for 1 year, man, like so James is going out and you're going to go out with Steph? You know what? That's a send-off.
I mean, listen, those two together would just be scary for the rest of the league because Steph would just be getting wide open shots.
You got Draymond down low?
How do you guard that team? And even somebody like a Clay, if they were able to keep a Clay, the spacing on the court would have been insane. You get one little decent big man just to help out with your front line depth. Oh man, that team was going to be a problem for the rest of the league. So I really would have liked to seen it, but I know people would have hated it because the reason I brought up the super team thing with you is in general is it just seems like LeBron is the only one that's gotten the most criticism for it over the course of his career when other people are doing it. Hell, look at the Clippers right now. I have never seen somebody escape more criticism for these types of things than a guy like Kawhi Leonard. And we're not going to go into this a ton, but Kawhi is literally playing on a super team right now. He's playing with 3 either if they weren't MVP winners, they were all multiple-time MVP candidates and finalists for the award. And he's got them all on his squad right now. Yet, not a peep about him being on a super team. Some people even talking about him having an MVP. So it's just interesting how LeBron kind of gets the different side of criticism with those types of moves.
I mean, here's the thing with Kawhi, right? He didn't come in as a superstar. He developed, right?
Sure.
He worked hard. He became...
Respect his game, too. Kawhi's a nasty player.
He became an elite assassin. Like, you put me on your team, you're going to be in the money to win a chip, right? You can become a contender.
Absolutely.
LeBron, he was anointed the king. From high school, he was the king. He was meant to be the next Jordan, right?
People still
and he lived up to the hype.
Yeah,
he lived up to the hype
100%.
100%.
But people still haven't gotten over that first when he left Cleveland.
The
for
decision.
The first time.
Yeah. Listen, you know what? You live and you learn. Get over it, right? He got the chips. He came back. He won them, right? That's the thing.
He still had to win.
LeBron did Cleveland justice.
He did.
Should they have won it? That's a different conversation. But he brought the chip back to Cleveland.
Resident Warriors fan over here.
I just speak the truth. Draymond doesn't get suspended.
You had 3 other shots to win that series, though.
Listen, it's not the same, right? Listen, do I got to go back to the football season? Energy, momentum, right?
Sure.
So, but yeah, no, that would have been nice. It would have been nice to see personally, but you know what? Like, again, think about the other trade moves that happened, right? It was nothing significant, right? You got Heel going to the 76ers.
Improve their three-point shooting. But I like Bohan to my Knicks.
Hurt.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I love that. Listen, the Knicks are set up.
That was good because
right?
they're hurt too, and they didn't have to give away any of their draft capital.
And that might be a good thing right now.
With OG out too.
Right? They're resting.
Yeah.
Give their legs a break in the middle of the season.
Shooter too.
As long as they all come back for the playoffs, I think they're going to be super scary because the NBA is not playing defense. But you know who will be? The New York Knicks.
Oh, yeah. I think they're second or third overall in defensive rating across the league. I think number 1 is the Minnesota Timberwolves right now.
And they haven't had Mitchell Robinson for most of the season.
They haven't had Mitchell Robinson.
Their best guy.
They lost. Not that he's really a great defender, but Julius Randle, it's just size.
Big body.
Yeah, it's a big body. And then OG, too, who's probably their best defender, OG Anunoby, who, if I'm talking any trades, that was before the deadline, that might have been the trade of the year for the Knicks. You should have seen their record once they got OG. I think they were like 10-2 or something.
Yeah, something like that.
It was a really good record with OG.
It was 2 losses in double-digit wins.
They were doing really well with him. I mean, his energy, his corner shooting, his ability athletically to somewhat get to the rim too. The Knicks were kind of lacking that at the wing position. He can defend 1 through 4 too. Like, he's a big, strong dude.
Nice thing about New York now too is DiVincenzo is stepping up, averaging 20 points a game since he's been out. So I think they.
And then he got hurt too, though. Like, the Knicks are gotta.
But here's the thing, right?
Stay above water.
You could see his potential now. So right now, I think you could rely on him more on the offensive side. Definitely.
Absolutely. And again, I say the only ones that were PJ Washington, the Mavs, they were struggling on the interior. So, I mean, they got some big guys.
A big body.
They also got a Daniel Gafford. So it's like they're at least addressing a need. Whether it will move the needle, only time will tell. We'll see after the All-Star break. Gordon Hayward to the OKC. I get why they did it in terms of taking some of the playmaking pressure off of SGA, but overall, I didn't think it was an absolute need for them. They have Chet Holmgren and then nothing else on their front line. Like, when it comes to the playoffs, you need big bodies and guys that can close out defensive possessions. Chet is usually the guy that's stepping out and going to block a shot, so he's coming away vacating the rim. You need that big body other guy to close out the possession and go grab your defensive rebound. I thought maybe they could have went for like a Lauri Markkanen or something like that just to pair with him. But I think maybe what OKC is thinking, and you kind of alluded to this, with all their draft capital, hey, we'll go get a Gordon Hayward right now. Let's see where we end up. We're really young. We have all the pieces in place to go and make moves if it doesn't work out for us at the end of this
Listen, the truth is they should have went after Pascal Siakam.
That would have been a good one, too.
If they did that would have been a good one, too. Been serious.
And he went to Indiana, and he looks nice
with
really Tyrese Halliburton,
looks
too.
really good.
It's a nice
so that would have been the pairing I would have wanted to see from the big man move.
Yep.
But you know what? Listen, they have so much draft picks. They don't want to let go of them because they're building through the draft, right? And they're looking to hit that big player, that Kawhi, that Paul George.
Yeah, that wing.
Go with him.
That big solid wing.
Definitely.
And then the final one that I would just say is, and we're going to talk a little bit more about the Bucks in a later segment, but Pat Bev to the Bucks, to me, just what the doctor ordered. They could not defend anybody's backcourt. They had a really hard time. Dame Lillard has never been known as a great defender. He can put in the effort when he has to, but he's not that guy. Malik Beasley is just not a starting caliber level shooting guard if you're trying to go and win a championship, at least for the bulk of minutes. But with a guy like Pat Bev, you now have somebody who for 20, 25 minutes game who can come in and be nothing else but an irritant and a pest to the other team's opposing ball handler, the guy who's trying to set an offense up. And he's also somewhat like a quarterback of your defense, help to communicate.
Hey, listen, he's a real defender because JJ Redick, called out Doc Rivers and Pat Bev, stepped up and said, hey, listen, you had your best years underneath him, so why are you coming for him? So, Pat Bev is not afraid to speak his mind. And I think the Bucks really just need that type of backbone, that attitude, especially with the playoffs coming. And they got to face Miami, and Miami is all attitude.
Yeah, man. I mean, with the Bucks, it's just a matter of let's see how they finish up this second half and if they can gel and get that chemistry, especially between Dame and Giannis too as well.
And I think the mistake is they need to focus more on Dame from an offensive standpoint.
Totally agree.
Because Giannis is going to get his buckets.
Totally agree.
But if Dame
He'll score naturally within the flow of a game.
Exactly.
Yeah. But listen, that is all the time we have for segment 1. Basketball, baby. It is time. But don't go anywhere. We will be right back when we run it back on segment number 2. What is up, everybody? I am your host, Shane Mallory, joined again by my co-host, Mr. DaCosta, and this is segment number 2 of Run It Back. Beautiful people, please like, comment, and subscribe, all right? Looking for those 5-star reviews on all those major platforms. You've done a great job, but spread the word. Get it out to more people, man. We want to keep growing, all right? But segment number 2, okay? We're going to take a little bit of break from the hardwood. Don't worry. We're going to come back to it in segment number 3, all right?
You want to go to the cage?
We're going to go to the cage,
Leave the hardwood and go to the cage?
Yeah, man. We're going to go leave the hardwood and go to the cage. Lock those doors, baby. Put the women and children to bed. It was fight night on Saturday, baby. So, big UFC card. It was actually UFC 298, all right? Headlined by, of course, Alexander Volkanovski, all right? He was undefeated, I believe, actually, at this weight class inside the UFC. He was the reigning champ. Now, he had vacated, okay, not vacated the title, but he had left the weight class a couple of times. He had challenged, actually, the 155-pound champ, who they fought twice. So the first time, epic fight. It was the thriller. Went to decision with the other guy obviously beating Volk. Very close fight though. Could have gone to either fighter. Then they fought a second time, and Volkanovski actually ended up getting head kicked by Islam Makhachev is his name. Bad dude. He's from the mountains of Russia. He's one of Khabib Nurmagomedov's understudies. Many people look at Khabib as arguably the greatest MMA fighter of all time.
Yeah,
went undefeated in the UFC. He's
Dangerous
the one
man.
Yes,
Dangerous
he's the one a lot of people think is like the reason that Conor McGregor is just like
Retired?
Yeah, or like just not the same man anymore after the beating he took. But nonetheless, I set that up to say, so Volkanovski goes back down. He's going to defend his belt against Ilia Topuria is his name, okay? I believe he hails from Spain. Undefeated, though. Big time up-and-coming challenger. Now, before I get into the outcome of that fight, a couple of minor ones. Marib Dvalishvili. Wow. Sorry if I butchered that pronunciation. But he beat Henry Cejudo. Now, why do I bring that up? Henry Cejudo was a former champ who walked away, came back to fight again. Former wrestler, actually an Olympic gold medalist too as well. So it's always sad, but I mean, he's getting the bag at this point, so good for him, man. You know, he's coming back and he still can fight. Then at middleweight, we had 2 highly ranked contenders, Robert Whittaker and Paulo Costa. Good fight, good back and forth. Paulo Costa landed a nice head kick early in the first round that kind of stunned Whittaker, but Whittaker got his bearings about him and
this is where I got to hit, like, see, time out,
Go
right?
ahead.
Somebody kicks me in my face, man. We got problems. Can we just say that, right? Like, I'm all down for a good fight.
It's a
boxing.
Fight.
You kick me in my face? Yo, like, come on. Like, yo, my people, the audience out there, you telling me if somebody kicks you in the face, you still going to fight organized? Like, we got problems. Yo, where my boys at? Like, anyway, continue.
Oh, I love it. Yeah. You got to get, if
let alone the knee?
If you get mad, you can call your boys into the cage. They can come and back you up. But
don't see me outside. Don't see me outside.
It was a good fight. Whittaker ended up taking it. Some people haggled over the decision. I thought it was the right call. But Volkanovski now main event against Ilia Topuria. Volkanovski was the favorite coming into the fight, despite Topuria being very impressive and undefeated. And I'll tell you this, I've watched Volkanovski fight a decent amount. At 145, one of his biggest advantages was he was always a very big guy in his past. He actually said at one point he weighed over 200 pounds. So to go from 200 pounds to eventually get your body all the way down to 145, you are packing a lot of power at that weight class. And that was something you could always see that was evident in his fights. And you could always see, even if he wasn't taller, he's like bigger, like just more filled out for the weight. Yeah. Yes, exactly. This is the first time that he stepped into the ring and I was like, whoa. I was like, this dude, Topuria, is like big, man. And half of it was just he sat in this big closed boxing stance and you could just see his back. There were times when like they moved around the octagon, you could barely see Volk just because Topuria's back was kind of blocking him off. But nonetheless, good first round. A little bit of back and forth. It seemed Volkanovski started to find his range and figured something out with the head kicks. But this is something I always say about combat sports. Be the aggressor. Be the one who's moving forward. Because eventually your ability to move or run away from a guy, it runs out if he backs you into a corner. And then you get into an exchange, there's a reason that guy's moving forward confidently. He feels he's got the power necessary to go and land a finishing strike. So Volk wins the first round. Competitive round, not like he was killing him, but it was getting the leg kicks, mixing up the striking. The one thing I noticed was even though he was landing strikes, every time he would back out, chin would come up a little bit. That means you're open for a shot. So second round, very similar. Volkanovski seems to have found his range. He's kind of tattooing up the legs a little bit, mix up the punches, but Topuria keeps moving forward. He throws his exchanges here and there. You hear a couple of shots land. Midway through the second round, Topuria somehow is able to kind of close off the ring and get Volk right up against the cage. And they have like just a little flurry. And you just see 2 punches by Topuria and then a third, a bang, a right. You can barely even see it. It's just so snuck in. But bang, he sneaks that right. And Volk, not only does he finish him, knocks him out cold. I mean, like, I never would have thought I'd see Volk out cold. I was shocked. And I was also just really impressed. There's a new guy. There's a new guy in the weight class, that's for sure. I know you saw some of the recap. You're not a big UFC guy.
Yeah,
but
I mean, listen, like from looking at the fight and reviewing everything, just from, again, like I'm a big boxing guy, right?
Sure.
So like I tend to compare everything
Topuria
to boxing. And to me, that was the difference, right? Like, yeah, listen, I joke about the kicking and stuff, right? But I feel like in the UFC, with the kicking aspect of it, like you catch someone off guard, and it's like a counter, right, type of a thing.
100%.
Right? Hit him with an elbow, hit him with a knee, a kick, so on and so forth, right? So to me, it's almost like you catch him off guard. From a pure fighting, striking, attacking standpoint, Topuria, like you said, was the aggressor. And all he was, you just need one good shot. And so it seemed like Volk was, I don't want to say being cute, right? But all right, you got all these moves, but it don't mean nothing unless I catch you, right? And so I think, Volk came in there trying to wear down Topuria's body and get blow after blow. And he came in prepared for that. And he just wanted to just brawl. Just let me close this distance, and you're not going to be able to
Tyson style almost.
Right, exactly. Let's get in this phone booth and let's see who really can fight. And to me, that's why
that's a good analysis or way of looking at it.
Right? To me, that's why Topuria won. And to me, from that fight, and if that's the standard, I think it's going to be hard to beat him right now.
Yeah, listen, the dude is definitely tough. There's a reason he's undefeated and just knocked out who many people were calling I always forget the name of the weight, but the 145-pound GOAT. A lot of people were saying
ain't the GOAT no more.
Yeah, Volk was the greatest of all time. We'll see where Volk goes from here. The one thing I would say is how dominant he was in the weight class. He has earned a rematch. The one thing I would say is, and it was funny, I was talking to my friend on the phone about this fight, who's a former fighter, and he said, I don't think he should have taken the fight. I think it was way too soon after just having taken a knockout. You need that time. Like, your brain needs time to recover from knockouts. Because if you don't give it the time and now all of a sudden you take another one, the brain is just going to naturally, it softens somewhat. So every time you take that contact, again to it, your brain, the skull, it's not quite as durable as it once was to receive blows and heavy blows at that. And as we all saw with Topuria, that dude brings some heavy blows.
So from watching the fight, I think Volk wanted to win by decision, right? And that's why he wanted the body blows. He didn't really seem like he was trying to...
Maybe he wore him down and got to finish late.
Yeah, catch him, right?
But yeah, he was going to outfight him.
Exactly. To your point, right? He's probably still a little weak, still a little off, right? So he's like, you know what? Let's go the distance, right? And that's your way to try to catch him. This guy won't have
the same power, too, in the later rounds.
Exactly, right? Sure. So I think that's what his strategy. But this guy's just like, all right, listen, I ain't going to pay attention to these body blows. I came in prepared. I'm just going to knock you out. Let's just fight, right? To your point, you just got to catch him on the jaw once. And from my opinion, it's not even like he clocked him. He caught him, but like it could have been worse.
Clean right hand.
But
that was a clean.
I think that's the best way to say it. It was clean.
Just throwing it right down the pipe.
But then caught him, and then he's just gone.
Yeah.
Right? Looked like he was gone for like good 45 seconds.
He was
right?
out. Even when he got woken up, he was just like, well, what happened? Like, he didn't. Yeah. And I always feel so bad for guys in those situations, especially a guy who's so great as dude, it can happen to anybody. Like, it's a fight. The fight game is crazy. I think that's why the sport has grown so much in popularity and more people are watching it now. It's just the intensity of the moment. Most people are not psychotic enough to get inside a cage with a locked door with another person who's ready to punch, elbow, knee, try to break your arm,
See,
leg.
why do they have it in the cage? Because my boys can't come in, right? See, I ain't about that life, right?
I don't know. Talk
you
to
know,
Conor.
yo, my man, like, yo, hey, cuckoo. You
know what?
Like,
go watch that Conor and Khabib fight, man. There were definitely some boys in there afterwards.
Yeah.
So, but
you
you hope
talk
to
about
avoid
Conor,
that.
right? You know, what's it called? Taporia called him out, no?
He did. He did.
So now, if I
he
want
said
to
if
see,
you still want to fight, Conor
I'd want to see
McGregor.
that match. I'd want to see that matchup. That'd be a little blockbuster.
Yeah, good luck with Conor McGregor ever making 145 pounds again. The dude looks like a blimp right now, man. a jacked blimp nonetheless, but a blimp compared to the former self. Yeah. But listen, it was a great fight because I think of the surprise. It was so, and Topuria, I would say, is going to be a problem in that division for a while. We'll see what Volk does. I'd love to see the rematch because I think he's earned it, but I also would like to see Volk take the time before he goes, and the sport moves on. You know, like this guy
Come
is
back
probably
6 months from now.
Yeah, this guy, though, is going to want to fight, and I don't think he's going to want to wait 6 months. So only time will tell. But nice job, man. You acquitted yourself well there for, not a regular.
I'm a sports
MMA
fan,
guy.
man. I'm a sports
Good,
fan.
man. You figure it out, right? But we go back now. We went from the hardwood to the cage, and now we go back to the field, baby, the football field. Now, a little bit of off-season talker. We want to talk quarterbacks. Now, you seen that 30 for 30 from Elway to Marino?
Yes.
Okay, so that is touted 1983. That's touted as one of the most, again, this is just going by the prospects, one of the most talented quarterback drafts ever.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that Marino was one of the last ones taken in the first round, and he was the first or second, however you want to look at it, whatever you're measuring.
Arguably the best thrower.
Arguably
right?
the best out of all of them. Tells you, at least on paper, how talented all those quarterbacks were in college. Numerous scouts and people who are breaking down this draft have now saying that this is the most talented quarterback draft since that 1983 draft, with a possibility of 6 guys going in the first round. So I'll highlight those guys first, and then we'll kind of talk about them in terms of
Let's do it.
how they look in the situation. So the 6 guys, obviously number 1, Caleb Williams. He's been kind of the most talked about prospect for the last 2 years or so.
Mm-hmm.
All right, he's kind of the guy. Yeah, it's been a while. Yeah, that's right, because going back to even when he was in Oklahoma, too. Drake May, UNC guy, was a name that I heard about more this year. I'm not going to lie. I didn't watch a ton of his games. Have some footage, so I have an idea of the type of player he is. And then Jaden Daniels from LSU, obviously, the Heisman Trophy winner, who really came on late, had a heck of a season, thrown to a stud, too, and Malik Neighbors, too, as well, who also could be going in the first round. Got Bo Nix out of Oregon. Mm-hmm. I'm always a little bit skeptical because even though we got Herbert, the laundry list of quarterbacks from Oregon who haven't quite made it in the league.
Now, remember, Bo Nix did play and start his career at Auburn.
Yes, he did. Good call. Then, of course, one of my personal favorites, Michael Penix out of University of Washington. I can't wait to talk about him. And then finally, we have J.J. McCarthy from Michigan, who a lot of scouts are saying could end up going in the back of that first round, too, as well. So I guess what we want to do here is kind of just talk about, we could start at Caleb, but then just think about in general, like what the best situation or place for some of these guys to go to. But what are your thoughts about these possible first rounders and best situations? Where do you think Caleb ends up?
Yeah, so listen, so for Caleb, right, do I think if I'm the Bears, right, look, it's a simple decision. I would have got rid of this coaching staff, bring in an elite offensive coaching staff and started fresh.
Especially if you're going to bring in a guy like Caleb.
There's an indicate because they didn't do that, but they changed the offensive coordinator, is that they like the coach, like the GM, and so they're going to probably trade the pick and bring in more talent, right?
So you think they're going to stick with Fields?
Jr., I think they're going to stick with Fields, right? Because here's the thing. The 49ers sort of set a precedence, right? To say, if you got a CMC, if you got an Ayuk, if you got a Debo, a Trent Williams, right, with a Bosa, all of a sudden you're a rock star of a team.
Sure.
And you just need adequate quarterback play.
Sure.
So, like you said, this might be one of the best drafts ever. So, can I trade from 1 to 3 and still get a Jaden Daniels or a Drake May? Or better yet, trade from 1 to 4, 1 to 3, pick up Marvin Harrison Jr., pick up an extra first-round pick, pick up an extra second-round pick, right? Because, again, if you can trade the first-round pick, and now you can leave this draft, let's say, with Marvin Harrison Jr., right? You go get another elite tackle.
Sure, because they need to fortify that
with your
O-line.
11th pick.
Yep.
And then you can pick up one of these other quarterbacks at the beginning of the second round, because I know everybody is in love with JJ. I think he should be at the bottom of the draft, if not the top of the second round. So
bottom of the first round.
Sorry, bottom of the first round, top of the second round. So yes, listen, for me, I would love to see. Let me correct myself. If it's taking my Giants hat off, if Washington moved up and he went to Washington, I think that would be the best fit for him,
Caleb?
Because they have great weapons, an offensive coordinator that's a true offensive coach.
Cliff Kingsbury
Yep, exactly.
Yes.
He's from the D.C. area, so that's where I think he belongs. If I'm looking at those top 10 teams that would, Atlanta's another great one. I don't think they're going to reach that far, because if I'm the Bears and I can move back one spot, right, and pick up a first and a second round draft pick, home run, and I might even be able to trade back again if Marvin Harrison Jr. is my guy, because the number one consensus player is Marvin Harrison Jr.
By most people,
right? So I think that's the move, and I think that would be a better situation for him. Right now, it looks like if you're a quarterback, you can go to Chicago. It's a place to die.
Yeah, so it's interesting because that's kind of where I've been leaning too. Like if I was Chicago, I feel like there's still talent and potential in Fields. I feel like you have something there. He might be the best pure running quarterback in the league. Maybe Lamar obviously still has a claim to that as well. Mm-hmm. But you've seen Lamar somewhat scale back on that and try to change his game. He runs now more so when he has to, not just out of I'm Lamar and I'm just going to run. Fields, can you develop a little bit? And I'm kind of with you. Can you put those weapons and like the structure around him for him to fully succeed?
DJ Moore, Marvin Harrison Jr., Cole Kmet in the middle, and then you go pick up an elite,
and then at that point you have no excuse to either. And worst case scenario, let's say you still end up bad. Well, I guess they're going to have to figure out. He's going into the final year.
No. He's going into his fourth year where he'll be eligible for his.
So you play out this year. You see how it goes, and then you kind of just make your decision from there. And if your team ended up bad, then you're right back to where you could go and maybe potentially draft a quarterback and put him with a bunch of weapons and maybe a fortified offensive line too as well. So I'm more or less inclined to agree with you. Are we both in agreement though Caleb Williams is the best quarterback in the draft?
Yes.
Yeah. Now, I think the reason I see with Caleb is I see accuracy. I see the ability to throw the ball downfield. I see the ability to extend plays too as well. So what you know with Caleb right away is even if your offensive line isn't perfect, he's going to be able to play within that because of his athletic ability, his maneuverability.
And the moment has never seemed too big for him.
I agree.
Right? So I think that's another big part of it that, he'll have real success.
Sure. So, okay, talk to me a little bit about Drake May. What are your thoughts on him?
So a lot of people, look at Drake May and view
I've heard Josh Allen as the comparison.
Right? View his comp as Josh Allen.
Skinnier,
I think he is more of a Justin Herbert.
Okay.
And here's why I think that. Justin Herbert came from the Oregon system. Everyone questioned it.
Sure.
He threw the ball, but didn't throw the ball that much, right? He wasn't asked to take a lot of chances. He wasn't asked to, throw the ball into tight lanes and things of that nature. And he sat for, I think, 1 or 2 games and then came out and was slinging it.
He was
I
awesome.
think Drake May, if he can sit for 1 year, right? Preferably.
So you don't think he's a start?
Not that I don't think he's a starter, right?
I think you're just saying preferably.
Exactly, right? Again, when you look at Patrick Mahomes, you look at
Aaron
Jordan
Rodgers.
Love,
Aaron Rodgers is a guy who sat too,
right? When you look at these guys that have sat, and even if it's just 6 or 10 games, you get to learn the speed of the game. You learn to read defenses, right? Like these things really matter. The faster you learn how to read defenses, the faster you can make quick decisions, right? And not be confused, right? Quote unquote, see ghosts.
Yes.
And so for me, Drake May has a ton of upside and untapped potential. And I think an NFL staff can unlock that. right? So, there's some talks that maybe the Giants might trade up to number 3.
Joel
and
Klatt
get
is
him.
extremely high on him.
Exactly. So I do think he's the second best quarterback here, but the thing is he has so much untapped potential. So I just think he needs to get into the right system. So a day ball would be great to unlock his talent. If I am New England,
the Giants possibly trading up, you could see
I would love
possibly.
that, right? I would love that. Sit behind Daniel Jones for 1 year and then usher Daniel Jones away or trade him, right?
The only thing is the salary cap. Jesus, drafting a first rounder and that.
If we lose
early,
Saquon, right, things are gonna be really questionable for us.
Yep.
But so that's, to me, Drake May is really a Justin Herbert. A lot of untapped potential, can make all the throws, right? Seems to be a smart kid. And if he gets into the right situation, I don't think the moment will be too big for him. But I think he really needs the coaching or the techniques, right, to really unlock his game.
Interesting. So I got to watch a little bit more on him. I'm not going to lie. I've only watched highlights. But the little bit of the highlights I've seen, the one thing I like is definitely looks like he has an arm. He's got a strong arm. And he's got like, I don't know if I would say Josh Allen completely because like the power wise, that's where Josh Allen kind of separates, but he's definitely got maneuverability and the ability to climb, run outside the pocket and extend and go make plays down the field. So I like that. In terms of a team that I would like to see him at, again, a lot of these guys, it really just comes down to, like, do you have the weapons? Again, he's another one. I don't think your offensive line necessarily has to be great, but if he were to end up in either Chicago, Washington, or New York, possibly, I think he's at least in a situation where he's either got weapons or decent offensive play caller that can help set him up for future success.
Watch out for the Atlanta Falcons. I don't think they can trade up to 1.
Yeah,
but
I think they're going to be. I think they're going to be.
If he was to end
room.
up in that McVay system, I think he would thrive.
Yeah,
right.
And I've heard Russell Wilson as a rumor for them, possibly, but they might just want to. They might just want to stay young and try to make it.
But again, I would love that.
For the long
trade
haul.
up, get May, and then grab Russell. Let Russell start. Drake May sit behind him. Really learn the system.
Yep.
And then I think he could thrive with those weapons.
Okay. So now we have Jaden Daniels. Now, I watched a little bit of Jaden Daniels towards the end. I think he has to develop a little bit more as a thrower, accuracy-wise, but there's no denying the upside. I mean, as a scrambler, wow. I mean, he is very impressive to watch. Can throw on the run, too, as well, which is obviously it almost seems like a prerequisite now for quarterbacks coming into the league. Like his upside, like his potential. Again, like I keep saying, I think for him, key is a good coach that's going to kind of scheme up how he kind of gets out and runs rather than just being instinctive and running all the time, but more so just for his throwing. Give him those easy plays early on to give him the confidence. I would say he's a level above in terms of throwing. He's not quite where Anthony Richardson was. Like, I think he's a little bit more far along than that, but very similar in terms of how you would scheme around him to set up. Where would you like to see him as well?
Well, so my comp to him, right, is a taller, skinnier Donovan McNabb, right? So that's, to me, the comp that I see. Right,
that's a good quarterback.
Staying in college, I've seen the development. Right, wins the Heisman. Now he's had a lot of talent around him, but he played in such a difficult division.
Sure,
I think he'll be NFL ready. In terms in terms of teams, here's what I think about it. And I know I'm going to keep repeating
And you
myself.
think all three of these guys are first rounders for the record,
Oh,
right?
yeah. These are going to be the first 3 quarterbacks.
These are first round grades.
I think he would fit very well in Washington. I don't think he would fit in Chicago. I think he would fit very well in
Seems like
Atlanta.
no quarterback is fit for Chicago.
Right. Well, listen, if I'm Chicago, and I think this is a reason why they may want to keep Fields, I want a big body, right, quarterback that can handle the cold temperatures.
That's a good point.
Right. So I need a Big Ben.
Sure.
Right. And so Jaden Daniels has the height, but he doesn't really have that size that I'd be looking for.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a quarterback that I think could fit them really well later on. We'll go over him. And so, and I also think Jaden Daniels would fit great with the Raiders. Now, know this.
I've heard rumors of them trying to move up as well.
Jaden Daniels was the quarterback at Arizona State when Antonio Pierce was the defensive coordinator. So they do have a
little
relationship
connection there. Okay.
Exactly. And I
Look at you doing all this little coaching research. I'm impressed,
listen,
man.
I pay attention,
the connections.
Right? And
I love it.
To me, I love the draft and I love this because you can.
But that's
you
important.
Make a team.
Coaching, knowing a young
Exactly.
player, that's huge.
And think about it. They got Devontae Adams, right? They got a good running game, good defense, right? So I think, that would be the setup. So I would like to see, I think Washington or the Raiders would be the spot. And I think through relationships that he would do really well are the two places that I'd pick.
Okay, I like that. So I'll actually take the lead, somewhat with the next guy, and I won't take credit for this theory that I'm coming up with, but because I listened to Joel Klatt talk about it, but I thought it was damn near perfect analysis. Bo Nix, coming out of University of Oregon. What is Bo Nix? Bo Nix is that quarterback where it's like, if you have the system set up right and you want it, he's going to do everything that a coach tells him to do. He's an Oregon quarterback. Well, what team is about to get rid of their quarterback that needs a new quarterback that has a great offensive play caller who loves a quarterback that just does exactly what he tells him?
With this?
Sean Payton and the Denver Broncos.
Okay.
I like Sean Payton and the Denver Broncos to possibly either make a move to try and move up and get him, or he might just, it all depends on how these guys fall. He might just be, he might just naturally fall to them, because let's say Caleb May and Daniels all go fairly early. Maybe then people start kind of re-gearing or reshifting their focus to like some other positions. Because again, the rules always take the most talented player, not necessarily always just go to need if it doesn't fit where he's being drafted. But a guy like Nix, who could maybe fall into the range where Denver's drafting, I could see him and Sean Payton as a perfect marriage.
Listen, I love it, right? You're not going to get a lot of disagreement from me there. I don't think the Denver Broncos could afford to trade up because they'd have to give up a first-round pick. They already gave up so much for Russell Wilson. Yep. So I think from an organizational standpoint, I don't think it's the right move. If anything, if I'm Denver, I want to trade back. So if it's sort of like trade up for Bo Nix or trade back and end up with, Michael Penix, end up with a
Penix is another one too.
JJ McCarthy. I think that's a better move, a smarter organizational move.
Sure.
Right. But where I would like to see Bo Nix is one of two places. With the Steelers.
Oh, I like that one too. I like that too.
With the Chicago Bears, right? So, like, he's played, up north. He's played in Auburn, right? So he's played in sort of tough, heavy football conditions.
Sure.
And so I think he has a big enough arm. He's mobile enough, and he has the attitude.
If you play in Auburn,
grit,
you can probably deal with Chicago fans.
Right? Exactly. He has the grit to be able to handle it. So those are the two places that I'd like to see him. I think he would be fine in Sean Payton's system. But I don't think he's a top 15 guy. I think he's a bottom 15 guy. So I would want, I'd want to see him there.
Okay. I like that. And it's interesting you brought up the Steelers, because the next guy I'm going to bring up, you know me, I've been high on him since the beginning of the college football season. Michael Penix. So Michael Penix is a guy who I think would work well in Pittsburgh, but the perfect place for him. The Dolphins got to make a decision on Tua. Well, what better way than possibly sitting there, again, I don't know if I'd feel 100% confident in sinking a ton of money into a guy like Tua, given that even though he's had solid years, he's had a hard time making it through seasons completely healthy, other than this last season. Struggles a little bit in the cold weather and the more adverse conditions. And also, their offense is built with the cheetah. You want somebody who can throw an accurate deep ball. Well, nobody throws a more accurate deep ball in this draft than Michael Penix. He's excellent from the pocket. He's excellent at climbing and maneuverability. He can scramble when he has to. Okay, but I think that's the perfect situation. Reset your salary cap too, right around him too as well. You got these young pieces. You can start fortifying everything else around him. I would love Penix.
Ladies and gentlemen, get ready for
what do we got?
Michael Penix to the Cowboys.
Oh no!
All right, to everything you just said about the Dolphins, right? Pay Dak his 60.
I hear what you're saying.
Walk away
from the comparison.
Let Penix sit for a year. And now all of a sudden, right, you have a quarterback that could throw the ball deep. You pay CeeDee Lamb. You bring in another receiver.
Yep.
Really set everything. Pay Micah Parsons. Now you have all the talent. You could bring in a top-tier running back. Saquon,
it won't happen, but I think it actually makes sense.
But you asked me, where does it make sense? Taking off my Giants hat, like if I'm the Cowboys, right, how often is there going to be a draft this deep of quarterbacks? You have to ask yourself, if Dak hasn't taken you to the promised land, will he? Yeah. And if he won't, and he's going to command $60 million a year for 5 years and $300 million, or draft a Michael Penix, I think that's a better move.
I like that. That's really, listen, that made a lot of sense. You were right. You were right.
Oh my goodness.
That made sense.
Oh my goodness.
Now,
Woo.
the final one, we have to kind of go rapid fire on this one. It's quick, but I think we're somewhat in agreement on this one. So J.J. McCarthy, he very well might get drafted in the first round. I don't know if he's a first round grade based on what I've seen yet. I've seen some throws. Personally, I think the perfect thing for him would be to fall just out of the first round, get drafted in the second, and sit behind someone for a year in a good situation. What do you think?
Yeah, listen, I think this is New England's next quarterback, right? I would love for them to pick him up at the end of the first round.
Yeah. All right. Well, so listen, that is all the time we have for segment number 2, but don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back to run it back on segment number 3. What is up, everybody? I am your host, Shane Mallory, joined, of course, by my co-host, Mr. DaCosta, and this is segment number 3 of Run It Back. Beautiful people, please like, comment, and subscribe. We are looking for those 5-star reviews on all of our major platforms. So just go right ahead, spread the word. Tell your friends, tell your family. Heck, tell the people that aren't even your friends. Just be nice. Make a new friend each day and tell them, oh, and by the way, go follow the Run It Back podcast. We greatly appreciate it. But we go back to the hardwood now. We've been all over the place today. We've been to the hardwood, and we went to the cage, the football field, and now we're back on the hardwood. We're trying to make it NBA heavy now. So if I were to go to you with this question right now, based on the first half of the season, the MVP of the NBA, who we got?
All right, so I mean, listen, there's a lot of debate out there. Not a lot of debate, but right, there's some clear choices, right?
What's the criteria?
Yeah, so I think when I look at it, right, like it's got to be one of the top teams. It can't just be about statistics, right?
Okay.
So like Jokic has won it several times.
So it's not
now.
about talent or lack thereof around. It's the record, the player's individual.
Yeah, listen, with the NBA, it's so easy to put up points right now, right? So just like throwing up stats doesn't impress me, right?
Sure.
What is your team winning? What type of success are you having? Do you have a loaded team? Do you not have a loaded team? Are you the best player on the team? Like, that's where my head's at, right? So I think Joel Embiid, hands down, would have been MVP if he stayed healthy and he would have
forfeited now,
right?
because he's
so my MVP would have been Embiid, and hopefully he could get back for the playoffs and make a nice little run. Then acknowledgement to Luka dropping 34 points a game and has the Mavericks in the hunt. My number, I guess, to date, MVP, right, is SGA, right, averaging 31 a game.
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander,
right, number 1 in steals, right, 13th in assists. So I really like that. But I think, right, they're second in the West. But I think, right, it should really go to Jason Tatum.
Whoa.
Right?
Hot take.
Now, I know he doesn't have, like, the prettiest numbers. I know.
He's 10th in points or something like that.
Listen, I'll give you the stats right now. He's 9th in points.
There
He's
you go.
23rd in rebounds. He's 46 in assists. His team, though, is what, to me, makes the real difference.
He's also a very good defender.
Very good defender, right? So two-way player.
Yep.
You can't really say that as much about Shai, right? But when you start
steals-wise, I mean, Shai's like a little thief.
Yes, right? But
like, I'm talking like on ball, can go and guard the other team's opposing best player, wing defender. He's bigger, he's longer.
Exactly.
So.
And the team is not quite the same if Jason isn't on the team, right? So, the Boston Celtics are 43-12, right? They've only lost 3 home games, and they're 13-1 in the division. So they've been dominant as a team. Yeah. He's the best player with the best record in the league. If they were in the West, they'd have the best record. They're in the East, they have the best record. Highly, highly impressive. So for me, right, the Tatum overall should get the award.
Okay. Listen, I can't be mad at you because, I mean, going with a route of one of the best players in the NBA who's on the best team in the NBA, can't really be mad at that because people like that have won the award in a similar fashion. Mm-hmm. I think some of the stats or whatnot are probably what's going to hurt him overall in the chase. Interesting that he called himself the best player in the NBA the other day. Now, I like it from the mentality of that's how you should be thinking if you're, that dude and you're trying to go out and win a title. You should be thinking you're the best. Do I think he's the best? And this is no disrespect to you, Jason Tatum. No, I don't. personally. I think you're very good. I think you're very talented. I would like to see the maturation process come playoff time of him not taking such difficult shots. He's got like this big, long, bulky body, and I just feel like he could be taking more people to, you know who he honestly should watch? If I were going to look at him and say, you want to get the most out of your game, and it pains me to say this, Kawhi Leonard. And the reason that I say Kawhi Leonard is because Kawhi Leonard, he'll shoot threes, but it's not like the basis of of his shot diet. And the reason that Kawhi is so good is because Kawhi is very strong. He's got he's got strong hands too as well. And when he uses his body to kind of get himself to easier spots on the court, create space, hit elbow jumpers, hit those little mid-range. Don't underestimate the art of being able to hit that mid-range jumper. I mean, Michael Jordan made a career dominating out of there. Kobe Bryant, great mid-range player too as well.
Yeah.
Like, don't underestimate that mid-range game because it's still so crucial into completing you as a scorer. My only issue with Tatum is just like his shot selection sometimes. Too many contested tough shots with the type of build and body that he has.
So my thing there, right, that's coaching. Right, I would love
some
to
of that
see
could be
Tatum,
the coaching, sure.
Right, is the coaching staff setting him up for
I
success?
don't disagree with you.
Right?
I don't disagree with you
I
on that.
miss
Some of it
he
is.
moved over to the Houston Rockets. Their former coach that was a part of this.
Oh,
scandal.
Ime Udoka.
Ime Udoka. I wish they still had him
And they were
because he
so good
was
defensively under him, too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They were thriving offensively and they were killing it defensively. I think if he was their coach or he had Steve Kerr, he had a Ty Lue, right? He had a coach that could really organize offense. I think Tatum would flourish even more. You talk about people that I think he should model his game off of, even though I know he's a competitor, he's a contemporary, but they both train under Kobe. I would want to see him adapt his game more to a Booker. Right, Booker, when he goes on his scoring, when he goes on his scoring rants, he's making quick decisions, mid range.
Fair.
Versus Tatum, I think he takes too long. I think he's thinking about the
Tatum's
play,
not decisive.
right?
I think that's a good way of breaking him down.
There you go. Right.
Sure.
Versus like, you know what? I'm the best player. I'm the man.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take over this game right now. Watch me drop 20 in this quarter.
Yeah.
Right. That's what I want to see.
I think that's
Jason
what a
Tatum
lot of
do.
people are waiting to see out of him too. He'll definitely be in the running, I think, for MVP. But my MVP is honestly right now in between two guys, and it's tough for me. So you laid out the case for SGA. I think SGA is playing phenomenal. The team is second in the West right now. That's the toughest conference. He plays good on defense. He's their leading scorer. He's one of the leading scorers in the NBA. Smooth, dude. Like, he is just a fun watch, like just watching SGA play. And their team wasn't in the playoffs last year. So to not be in the playoffs this year, now all of a sudden you're the second seed in the West.
Impressive.
I mean, that's pretty impressive. So he's got a good argument. My MVP, though, is actually right now going to go to Luka Doncic.
Stats guy.
Yeah.
Stats
And
guy.
so here's what I'll say about Luka. Just like OKC, Dallas did not make the playoffs last year. And while I think Kyrie is awesome, I do think Kyrie is awesome. If that is your second best player and you have like a somewhat supporting cast, the fact that they are, I think they're 7th or 8th in the standings right now for the West.
7th.
So they're 7th. To not be a playoff team last year and to kind of really just add Kyrie. Now, they made a couple of moves at the trade deadline, which I alluded to try to beef up their front line. Defend the rim a little bit better. But the fact that Luka has this team performing where they are, I think he's leading the league in points right now because Embiid's out, so I count him as the number
34.3, yeah.
Yep. I believe if he's not first in assists, he's second or third in assists too as well. Not the greatest defender. He'll put the effort in like when he has to. But what he does too is just a floor orchestrator, getting so many of the other guys involved, getting Kyrie to his spots on the court too and getting him his looks. But what he does for the other guys, because Kyrie's Kyrie. I mean, Kyrie can kind of just find a bucket however he needs to. But what Luka is able to do with the other pieces around him and orchestrate and get those guys into spots where they can score, that's where I think that's where I think Luka separates himself. And also, I'm taking it for literal definition of the word. Most valuable player, meaning most valuable to his team. I think SGA and Luka have the two strongest cases for that. I think if you took Tatum off the Celtics, they obviously wouldn't be where they are, but I still think they would be they'd be somewhere in that like 5 or 6 range in terms of best teams in the East. I don't think they would all of a sudden fall out of the playoff race. If you took Luka,
I don't know. I think they'd be bottom half.
They
right?
would
So
definitely
5
be
to,
not as
6
good.
to 10.
I still think they would be a playoff team. You took Luka off Dallas. I don't think they're anywhere near sniffing the playoffs. And if you took SGA off OKC, man, in the West, I mean, they might be a play-in at that point, kind of similar to what they were last year. So that's why I like Luka just slightly right now.
But yeah, like to your point, like listen, I think your MVPs are in the same vein, right? So you're being consistent, but SGA has it significantly over Luka. To me, the only way Luka could take over SGA is if all of a sudden the Mavericks finish
made a
over,
magic jump, yeah.
You know, and now granted, they're 7 games out of first place, but they're only 3.5 games out of third. So with the Mavericks, right?
Just
so
shows you the West is so tight.
Yeah,
it's
so like we'll see how they separate.
Seed is not normal.
Yeah, we'll see how they separate.
It's not like a typical 7 seed.
Yeah, because it's the top 6 that really matters, right?
Yep.
You know, so
you just want to avoid more or less. You just want to avoid the play-in situation. If you can avoid that play-in situation, because you could work that whole season just to get there, and your season's over in 2 games. So. But listen, I can't hate on the Jason Tatum pick either, obviously, because you're staying with a similar. He's still very good statistically and the best team in the league. So,
yeah, you got to think there's about 26 games remaining, right? So if they go 20-6, right, you know, all of a sudden now, you know, winning 63 games, you know, that's pretty significant, right? Yeah. So that's how I'm thinking of it. If they're over 60 wins. And he's top 10, top 7 in points, right? To me, you got to give it to him.
Nah, man, listen, I hear you. It'll be interesting to see how the second half finishes up, where the voting kind of goes, and who's kind of in the front running towards the end. Before we get into some picks / like some analysis for some games this week, we're gonna do it for the NBA now, right?
Yeah.
But the Bucks. So the Bucks were kind of the big talk of the offseason, bringing in Dame. Okay, they've had a lot of turmoil, I guess would be the right word, in terms of, I mean, they started this, their coach left before the season even started. Then they had the guy Griffin, who was fired, I want to say, a couple weeks before the All-Star break. Now they have Doc Rivers. Since bringing in Doc Rivers, they're 3-7 with him. So a little bit of the struggles. And, you know, a lot of the talk is going to be like, why would you bring in a guy like Doc, who ever since 10, 15 years ago, I'm losing my memory, when he won with the Boston Celtics, he's kind of been somewhat relegated to the choke artist role. He's blown multiple 3-1 leads. And I think a lot of people were questioning why the Bucks would bring in someone like Doc, given his lack of resume since winning that one NBA title many years ago. This actually even came and reported out. JJ Redick came and obviously spoke about Doc and how, yes, Doc, we get it. You know, it's you know, it's another excuse basically for why the Bucks are struggling, because Doc came out and just said, "What did you just think I was going to come in and this was going to be easy?" This is still a bunch of players, 2 very high-profile players learning how to play with each other. That was the one point where I actually kind of took a step back and paused, and I'm like, you know, that is actually a fair point. Like, when you bring in someone like Dame and someone like Giannis, who are so used to being the guys and ball-dominant players in their respective places, and now you want them to play together, it isn't easy. But what are your thoughts on, like, kind of the Buck struggles, this whole Doc situation, everything that's going on there?
I literally think management has failed them, right? So I'm not blaming Doc, right? I'm not even blaming players. I'm blaming management.
It's tough to come in mid-season.
So forget that, right? Yeah. Like, so let's go back to the origin, off-season, right? You win. You get rid of your prior coach, right? Then instead of paying the money to get Nick Nurse, right? I
think the head coach left for whatever reason, but go
on.
Yeah,
you know, like,
it was something weird.
There was some personal weird going on with his family. There was some personal issues there, right? So, but they separated. Technically, they fired him, right? They didn't want to pay to get Nick Nurse, and look at what's going on in Philly right now.
Which they could use,
that was a mistake,
especially defensively.
Now, 2, you get AJ Griffin, right? Young coach, like has never been.
I think.
Adrian Griffin.
Adrian Griffin.
Never has been a head coach before. Then you go get Dame, right? And now there's a whole bunch of pressure in the Dame trade. You get rid of Holiday, right, which is your defender, right?
And he ends up in the worst possible place, too.
Right, you're going to go get Dame so you can keep Giannis, and now you want to win now, and you get rid of your best defender. You don't get the best coach available. You have an inexperienced coach, so that's a huge disaster from a management failure, right? Sometimes, right,
the coach gets blamed. East, despite all this.
But here's the thing, right? Like, you got a lot of talent, and the East is good, but, again, Philly is hurt. Right, the Pacers have been hurt. They've made moves to step up.
You got one team to beat. It's the Celtics, really.
Right? Listen, Miami's just trying to make the playoffs, right? So they're always hanging around.
Because they're tough and gritty when it comes to a playoff series.
So now, all right, you fire Griffin, you get Doc, and you're bringing in Doc for defensive purposes, right? And so, but does he have the players for his system? He's adapting his system to what he has, and ultimately, right, chemistry, coaching matters, and you need time to be able to implement a system. And I'm sure the system is completely different from what Griffin was running. So now they're learning, right? They're trying to catch up, and you're trying to win games at the same time. Yeah. So I don't think he was set up for success. I think JJ Redick, the way he spoke, it seemed like there was a little animosity, some underlining feelings there, because JJ Redick had his best career under Doc.
Yeah,
then
best years
under Doc, and then spun that into another contract with the Philadelphia 76ers, right? And became known as a elite shooter in this league. So
he got a lot of spot ups at LA.
100%.
He had a lot of spot up opportunities.
And then here's the thing, right, where Doc is a little unfair, right? Like, so what are you going to blame him for the bubble championship where nobody wanted to be there? It was COVID. It was the world wasn't the same, right?
Fair.
To me, you can blame him for that Philly loss, right, where they were up 3-2 and end up losing to the Boston Celtics, right? But when you look at the era that he played in, he does have one chip. Right, he's been in the LeBron era. He's been in the Steph era. Those are the guys that have been taking all the chips, right? So he's been in it, right, and he just didn't get over the hump. So can he coach? Of course he can, right? Can he?
Winning championships is hard.
Yes, and here's the thing: Embiid was having his greatest offensive year this year, but under Doc, he was thriving under Doc. So Doc is definitely a player's coach, and he could definitely coach to the guys that he has. And so do I think Redick was 100% fair in his analysis? He seemed more personal, right? And I couldn't understand why it was personal on his behalf. Yeah. But listen, Doc's a good coach, clearly best available. And when you and here's the one thing he doesn't get credit for, right? Doc has been managing stars. Not everyone can coach.
And they asked to bring him in, so obviously they wanted him.
Yeah. Oh my God, he was on the TV. He was on the TV set. He was getting paid. He was happy, right? And so I think that's what you got to look at. Not every coach can manage stars. Look at Ty Lue right now. Ty Lue was ready to get out of there, right? Too much of a headache trying to figure out and implement James Harden. And then guess what? He's such a great coach. He did it. Yeah. And now they went from a laughingstock to one of the best in the West, and now a championship contending favorite, right? And so Doc has the ability to do that. I just don't think he has what he needs. I think he's, like I said this earlier in the season, you got to get rid of Chris Middleton. You have to. Right, you brought in Dame. You brought in. I think
you're kind of stuck with him at least for now.
But yeah,
I was suggesting trying to trade him last year.
Yes, so right. You talk about getting rid of Drew Holiday,
just get younger, get a couple of younger pieces.
Again, if you got rid of a Middleton instead, right, and kept the Drew Holiday, you would have been better defensively. You would have still had adequate scoring, and now you just have to replace a wing player versus trying to replace a two-way guard.
Yeah. No, I mean, listen, it's so funny. As much as I liked the Dame trade and move, I really underestimated the loss of Holiday. And you see it watching the Bucks. They're actually a very good offensive team this year. Now they need to be better because the whole point of the trade-off was, okay, we're going to give up some defense because we're going to be an otherworldly offense with Dame and Giannis. They still haven't quite found that groove. I mean, there's a myriad of factors. Is it Giannis's inability to somewhat kind of adapt and play off the ball more? Because again, you've said this, and I've been saying this forever. The offense should run through Dame. The 100%. Offense should run through Dame, and you should be like in a video game when you find that one move that can just work and you piss off your other friend because you're doing the same move. Yeah, well, find a way to stop it. The Bucks should be spamming pick and roll because the options off of that are so great. First of all, I've talked about this way earlier in the season. You can't, when you're going to run the pick and roll with Dame and Giannis, you can't have two bodies that match up with both of those guys. Mm-hmm. You're not going to have a guy who can switch off the tagger who's coming with Giannis. He's not going to be able to stay in front of Dame. And then to that same end, if somebody tries to switch off and it's the other way, you're going to have somebody that's too small with somebody like Giannis as well. So it's a very hard situation. Not to mention all the scrambling it's going to do to the defense, to do to the rest of the defense. You have a guy all of a sudden like Brook Lopez who's sitting wide open for looks too as well. So they need to be running more pick and roll off Dame.
So yeah,
because the offense is where it's going to happen.
To your point and now my point, right? I agree with the pick and roll, right? You got Brook Lopez on the wing, right? And you got Middleton on the wing. My argument is you flip Middleton, right? Get a younger 3-and-D guy, more athletic.
Might even get a couple young role players.
Right? So you still get the 3-point opportunity, but his role is going to be served on the defensively. I'll be honest, right? Who they needed was, OG, right? That the Knicks got.
OG.
That is exactly what they need.
OG be a great little player over there.
Right? And so that's what they're missing. That's what they got to go out and find. And now all of a sudden that team is going to make sense. But I think Middleton would have been the person to get rid of, and it would have been easier to find a 3-and-D guy, a Dorian Finney, in that realm is what they need.
Just a younger, because the fact that now the Bucks season, I hate to say this, it hinges on two things. The ability to get the most out of that offense, but also Chris Middleton's health. Because if you're going to win, you're going to need Chris Middleton to be some type of a contributor this year if they want any shot at winning a title.
And then here's my thing too, right? If they run up against a physical team, they've struggled in the past. So if they run up against a Miami, I think they're going to have, and again, not being biased, I think they're going to struggle with the Knicks, right? The Knicks is a strong defensive team, physical. And when Mitchell Robinson comes back, Giannis is not going to be able to just, clog the middle. Right? And Jalen Brunson is going to be able to keep up with Damian Lillard. We got OG to put on him as well. Even DiVincenzo, right?
Yep.
So they got options.
AKA Devo is his apparent nickname.
Is it?
Devo.
Right, Devo.
That's what the folks are calling
like
him.
Devo, but Devo?
Yeah, kind of like that.
Is that where it came from?
Too funny. But I mean, listen, we'll just see over the second half if the Bucks can kind of figure it out or whatnot. But you ready to talk about some games here coming up?
Let's break it down.
So
where
listen,
are we going
man,
first?
we're going to go through 4 games coming up on Thursday that are happening. And we picked these 4 games, people, because let us get our flow with the NBA first, but we wanted to focus on ones that were very impactful to like the races right now. So we start off with the Knicks and the 76ers. 2 pretty banged up teams right now. I believe they are both 4 and 5 respectively. I think the Knicks are 4 and I think the Sixers are 5. They're both obviously trying to stay above water and they're trying to get healthy so that when the time comes, maybe they can climb up into that 3 seed possibility and you avoid Boston until at least the ECF, because I think that's what most teams are looking for. So when I look at this Knicks and 76ers game, OG is out, Julius Randle is out. I've got to double check on whether DiVincenzo is going to be out, but I know we got Jalen Brunson. And I know that the 76ers have struggled a little bit without Embiid. Maxey struggled a little bit to generate offense for the rest of the team. More defenses are just kind of coming in and focus on him. Tobias Harris has had a solid year. But if I'm going to bet on this game, I think it's going to be a close, probably a lower scoring game back and forth. But I just believe that Jalen Brunson will be the difference in this game. He'll find a way to go and pull it out against the Sixers. Because that's just what that man does. He just comes up big in clutch spots.
Well, so here's the thing, right? So I think, if the Knicks are going to win this game, right, I think, like you said, I agree. Jalen Brunson has to go off.
They're the better defensive team, too.
Right, better defensive team. But I also think, right, a big part of it is that, Philly, they're also learning. They just traded for Buddy Hield, right? Sure. And with making that particular trade, they're trying to figure out their offensive system. Maxey doesn't quite look the same without Embiid. Right, I think you talk about a pick and roll and playing off of each other. I think that was a big thing, and they're lacking some of that.
Yep.
So I think this is a scenario where the Knicks are going to keep this one a little gritty, right? And I think they're going to punch out a low-scoring win because as the 76ers look to get their rhythm and figure out how to work together without Embiid, I think the Knicks, they added...
a big ask.
Bogdanovich.
Bojan Bogdanovich,
right?
Yeah, that's right.
They added him, and I think that
Huge.
like from a three-point shooting
standpoint... I totally
standpoint,
forgot about him, yeah.
Right? From a three-point shooting standpoint, I don't think it's going to be hard to integrate him. So Jalen's offense, his three-point shooting, plus the defense that they play, that's how the Knicks pull it out. They keep it low scoring. Knicks pull it out with a 3-4 point victory.
Well, a Coach Thibodeau team is always going to be well coached. They're going to rebound, they're going to hustle, and they're going to play hard defense. But yeah, to your point, I think the difference is while Tyrese Maxey, his athleticism is there, he still hasn't been in that role where he's had to carry and be the guy on a team. Jalen Brunson now, this is his second year doing it, so I think that ultimately will be the difference in this game. But to your point, all the other points that you just made.
So my worry is that
win the rebounding battle, play tough, gritty defense.
Tyrese Maxey now, why is 70? If the 76ers win, right, I think it's because Maxey evolves more into that point guard distributor role, right? Yeah. But the thing is, he has to do both. Right, he has to score and pass.
We'll have a tough time guarding him. I will say that.
Optimal.
Yeah.
Right, he's not going to be optimal. So for me, for the 76ers to win, I think that's a big case. So if Maxey,
it's in Philly too, but that's not a far travel for New
York. Not
so.
at all. We're going to have a lot of Knicks fans in there. But if the 76ers to win, I think Maxey has to have 10 plus assists, get Buddy Hield involved, right, and that's how they can spread the Knicks out, tire them out through the rotation, and pull out a victory.
Sure. So I'm actually looking at this next game just because I wanted to look at the records. So the next game we have, and again, this is another one tight. We've got the Phoenix Suns at the Dallas Mavericks. Now, as I look at the standings right now, and I was just looking at this before, Phoenix Suns currently are 33-22. They're in fifth. The Mavericks are 32-23. They're at seventh. So it just shows you like the margin of error is so small in the West. The Suns have been hot of late, though. They've been playing a lot better. They made a couple of nice little trade deadline moves, fortified their front line too as well. Kevin Durant's just been balling. And now, since they brought back Beal too as well, it opens up a kind of danger to their offense because it's a third guy now. It's hard enough sitting there trying to guard when you have Booker and Durant, obviously, two offensive explosive players. But now you add in someone like Beal, a cutter, a slasher, but a guy who can also go and get his own shot. It's opened up for them big time. The Mavs, on the other hand, they've been struggling a little bit going into the All-Star break. They made their moves to fortify their front line. This is a tough game. It's in Dallas. I'm actually going to go with the Mavericks to pull this game out. I think it's going to be a back-and-forth game. I think it's going to be higher scoring. I think the Suns' biggest problem is they have nobody to match up with Luka. I think Luka is just going to eat up on them, penetrate, kick out to different guys, and then I think when he needs to, Kyrie is just going to go self-operation mode and just go and cook. I think it's going to be a great back-and-forth game. I think both teams are going to score, but I like the Mavs in this game. And they need it a little bit more.
So for me, right, why have the Suns have been playing so well, right? Because they've been getting, first of all, they've been healthy, right? Sure. I think Beal had to go out for a little, nose surgery or something like that, but they shouldn't. Hopefully, he'll be back for this game. But to me, if they get Beal involved first, right? I know he's the third option, but if you get him involved, it opens it up tremendously for Booker and for KD.
Sure.
And so for me, Beal is the number one option because if he gets 20 points, we know Booker, we know KD are going to get their points, and so now you get that balanced scoring. And who do you guard? Because you're not going to be able to double anyone, right? So to me, Beal really is the key. Like you said, they brought in some depth. And if I'm
Luka loves to beat the Suns too.
Yeah, but you know what? Listen, I think their length, and I think my worry with the Mavericks and Luka is that sometimes he's too ball dominant, right? And it's either ISO with him or it's ISO with Kyrie.
Yep.
And I don't think that alone will beat the Suns, right? Especially if they get Beal involved early. So look for, to me, the Suns. If Beal plays, look for the Suns to blow them out, beat them by 10, right? Yeah. Because I don't think, as much as the Mavericks can score, I don't think from a team standpoint they can keep up with that trio.
Yeah, and at the same time, can they guard Durant too, man? Durant's been on a scorcher lately. But this is probably the premier matchup we're looking at right here, though. The LA Clippers, who have been hot as of late, I would say right now, as much as it pains me to say, I think they're right in there for the title contenders. They're probably just below Boston and Denver right now, if I were to pick my title picks personally right now. But the Clippers have been hot. And then you got the Thunder, second overall seed in the West. I'm going to go with the Clippers in this game, and it's actually very simple. Who do the Clippers struggle with? They struggle with teams that have a lot of size, a lot of length, okay? That's why they actually got beat up by the Lakers a little bit earlier in the season. They struggle against Minnesota Timberwolves, who just beat them up very recently. It's those big, long front lines. The Thunder have Chet Holmgren, and they got nothing else behind that. I think that the Clippers will be able to work around that, pull Chet out from the hoop. I think they'll be able to win the rebounding battle, and I just think too many wings, too many guys for the Thunder to have to guard and deal with, and Kawhi and Paul George, and then even some of their backup guys too as well. Terrence Mann is a really good player too as well. I just think the Clippers are going to be too much for the Thunder. They match up well with them.
So they're one game apart in the win column, right? So they're coming off of the All-Star break. I think the Thunder are going to be happy with themselves and happy with what they've done.
Sure.
To me, be a little sluggish, be a little fat and lazy, versus I think the Clippers are going to come out and make a statement, right? Because, this is how you separate yourself. You win certain games within your conference.
And they're a young team. Now the expectations are going to come in.
Exactly.
You've been the second seed most of the season.
So I think, the Clippers had an opportunity to rest. That's when Kawhi is at his best. So look for it to be a close game. And for
we all know Kawhi likes rest.
They're going to pull away late.
Yeah. Okay, so listen, final one, and this will be kind of rapid fire, but these two are both in the play-in situation currently. Lakers versus Warriors. I'm going to take the Lakers simply because they just seem to know how to play. If no one else, they seem to know how to play against the Warriors. They have a pretty good defensive scheme for matching up with Steph Curry. Although I will say it's a little bit tough now that Vando's out, who will be running around chasing Steph, but I like the Lakers.
I think the Warriors have found their rhythm, find something special with taking Klay off of the bench.
Yeah, I like Podziemski too, the rookie.
Exactly.
Nice
they put him
player.
in the starter, he can shoot, he can activate the ball, slashing.
Sure. And Kuminga is starting to turn into that.
You know what? Let's be honest. They're just trying to give him the ball and say, hey, go do your thing. If you miss, you make a mistake. Exactly, right? But you only learn with experience and hey, go be the man, right? You got Steph there if you need help. It's his team, but, he's grown that confidence. So I'm taking the Warriors in that one. Plus a little bit of a revenge factor.
Ah, there you go. Well, listen, that wraps up, the final segment of this week's episode of Run It Back. But you folks, don't go anywhere. We will be back next week. I am Shane Mallory.
Ricky DeCosta, Run It Back.
We'll see you next week. Run It Back.